Welcome to Encrypted Tales. It started with a terrifying silence. Not the quiet of a sleeping city, but the unnatural stillness that hums behind walls of machines, the silence of ventilators that have suddenly stopped breathing, monitors frozen mid-beat, alarms refusing to scream. Inside a hospital on the edge of town, patients slept under the harsh glow of fluorescent lights, unaware. Doctors and nurses rushed from room to room, their faces edged with confusion, then panic. And somewhere deep in the building's digital heart, a single, cold message blinked on a screen. Your files have been encrypted. Pay or lose everything. Ransomware. In the one place it should never be. Hospitals are supposed to be sanctuaries, fortresses where the fragile line between life and death is guarded by the best of humanity. But that night, a gang of faceless criminals thousands of miles away had turned this sanctuary into their battlefield. They shut down everything: patient records, lab results, even the MRI machines. The staff weren't just locked out of data, they were locked out of saving lives. For most, this would be the end of the story. Another institution crippled by cybercrime. Another headline about millions demanded in Bitcoin. Another invisible act of violence in a world growing numb to it. But what happened next was different. Because this story isn't about the hackers who attacked. It's about the one who fought back. He called himself Orion, not his real name, of course. He was just 19 years old, a self-taught coder, and what some people would call an ethical hacker. A white hat in a world increasingly dominated by black. He wasn't supposed to be there that night. He wasn't on the hospital's payroll, he wasn't even in his IT department. But he had been watching. For months, he'd been lurking in obscure security forums, tracking a ruthless group of criminals known for targeting healthcare facilities. When the hospital's systems went dark, a silent alarm went off in Orion's mind. He knew exactly who was behind it. And he knew what he had to do. Most people imagine hacking as this cinematic storm of green code raining down a screen. The reality is much slower, more patient. It's like picking a complex lock in total darkness, feeling for the slightest click, the smallest vibration. Orion didn't try to storm the attacker's servers with digital brute force. He crept. He moved through the shadows of their network, watching the way they operated, studying the malware they deployed, mapping the patterns of their extortion. He became their ghost. And then he saw it, a flaw. A tiny overlooked mistake in their encryption routine, a single loose thread in their digital fortress. In that flaw, Orion saw a glimmer of hope. Experts often describe ransomware as a digital cancer. Once it spreads, it's almost impossible to cure without destroying the host. The hospital was bleeding out, operationally speaking. Doctors were reverting to paper charts, shouting orders down hallways, their modern miracles reduced to battlefield medicine. All while Orion, fueled by cheap energy drinks and a burning sense of justice, stayed awake for 36 straight hours. He worked tirelessly, racing against the quiet ticking of a clock that measured not time, but lives. Then, in the dead of the second night, he found it. The key. A digital skeleton key that could unlock the hospital's frozen systems without paying a single cent of the ransom. He sent it anonymously to the hospital's bewildered IT staff. No name, no explanation, just a string of code. Within minutes, the silence was broken. Monitors flickered back to life. Alarms began their steady, reassuring chirps. Records reappeared. Machines hummed again. The hospital had been saved. Not by its own multi-million-dollar security systems. Not by law enforcement. But by a 19-year-old hacker in a dark room somewhere who chose to fight fire with fire. When I first heard this story, I wondered if it could even be true. Could one person hidden behind a screen really save hundreds of lives in a single night? I spoke to several cybersecurity analysts, and they all said the same thing. Yes. Not only is it possible, it's happening more often than the public knows. These ethical hackers, sometimes kids just out of high school, Sometimes seasoned pros with decades of experience are the invisible firefighters of our digital world. They rush into burning networks, not for fame, not for fortune, but because something inside them refuses to let the chaos win. But the line they walk is razor thin. The same incredible skills Orion used to rescue that hospital could have been used to destroy it. The same code that unlocked the files could have been used to steal them and sell them to the highest bidder on the dark web. What makes a hacker ethical isn't their skill. It's their choice. A choice made in a split second, with the fate of strangers hanging in the balance. Orion never revealed himself to the hospital. He didn't ask for money or recognition or even a simple thank you. He just disappeared. Back into the vast anonymous expanse of the internet. Some would argue that people like him are dangerous digital vigilantes with far too much power and no accountability. Others say they are our last line of defense in a world where governments move too slowly and corporations often invest too little in real protection. I only know this. In that hospital, on that night, Orion's choice mattered. A premature baby's fragile heartbeat, now steady on a monitor. A cancer patient's critical treatment schedule, now back online. An elderly woman's entire medical history, now accessible again. All of it had been held hostage behind a criminal's ransom note. And all of it came back because of one person's decision. But the story doesn't end on that hopeful note. Months later, the same hacking group struck again. Different hospital, different city. This time, there was no Orion watching from the shadows. The system stayed down for days. Surgeries were cancelled. Critically ill patients had to be transferred miles away in a frantic scramble. Some didn't make it. The truth is sobering. For every story of a hacker who saves, there are dozens of stories of those who destroy. The balance of our digital world tilts not on technology, but on morality. On the quiet, unseen decisions made by individuals in rooms we will never know. When I think of Orion now, I don't just see a hero, I see a mirror. He shows us what is possible when the same intelligence that can be used to exploit is used to protect. He forces us to ask some very hard questions. Who do we trust to guard the digital arteries of our modern lives? What happens when the locks fail and the only people who have the keys aren't on our side? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, what if the next Orion chooses not to save us? Hospitals will keep getting attacked. So will schools, power grids, and governments. The digital battlefield is already all around us. But scattered across it are people like Orion, quiet, anonymous, and unwilling to stand by while lives flicker in the dark. And maybe that's the strangest comfort of all. That somewhere out there, in the endless sprawl of code and shadows, there are hackers not trying to break the world, but trying, desperately, to keep it alive. This was the story of the hacker who saved a hospital. A story not of machines, but of choice. Not of code, but of courage. And a profound reminder that in a world run by technology, sometimes the greatest acts of humanity come from the very people who know how to break it. Thanks for watching Encrypted Tales. If this story made you think, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden digital world. Stay safe out there.